Hi, I'm Chris. I'm here in the Micro World Investigate Lab at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences with lab coordinator Christy Flint.
Hey.
Christy was telling me that she recently heard about a cool science discovery, and she found the way to actually bring that discovery into the lab here at the museum. So Christy, tell us about what you heard and what you've done.
So I heard about and read a scientific paper by a researcher from Stanford University who wanted a way for clinics in poorer countries to be able to process patient samples without using a machine called a centrifuge.
Because this thing costs thousands of dollars.
It costs a lot of money, and it requires a reliable source of energy. So he decided he wanted to try and find a way to make a hand-powered centrifuge. That way it doesn't rely on energy. It would be cheap to make, so there wouldn't be a cost barrier for clinics to be able to diagnose their patients. So what I wanted to do was figure out a way for museum visitors to learn about this kind of breakthrough in thinking of looking at alternative ways of processing and of using lab equipment.
Right.
And I am familiar with the Whirligig toy, and I happen to have a button and some string hanging out in my lab. And I just taped a tube to my button and put in a sample tube that has a mixture of water, iodine, and starch. Because the iodine and starch will combine to make a really nice purple particle, so you can see it really well, right? So there's a big mixture, and I just took some of that, put it in the tiny tube. The starch is heavy enough that if you spin it for just a short amount of time, the starch will pelletize down at the bottom. So it'll form a nice little pellet at the bottom, and then there'll just be pure water at the top.
Okay.
So we put that, we put the tube in with the sample inside a screw top vial, taped it to the button, put some string on it, and when you spin it for even less than a minute, you
just
spin
a few
it enough,
seconds.
Yep, the water will be at the top, and there'll be a nice purple pellet of starch iodine compound at the bottom. So it really demonstrates, without having to take blood samples from visitors,
Right.
that
that
invention or that reinvention of that toy that the researcher for Stanford did. And while you might not be able to, if you come to the museum and come to the Microworld Lab, people can play with this and see how they can play with a real centrifuge and see how it works, what do you use it for. But if you just want to have a centrifuge at home, just get some string and a button, and you can have
And
a
we
centrifuge.
make science easy.
You make science easy.
And accessible for anybody.
Exactly. Right.
Thank you, Christy.
You're welcome.